All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are on the globe. Welcome to this webinar, which is going to be an introduction about the PnP Modern Search web parts and how to create your first PnP Modern Search page in SharePoint Online. Some logistical information. Feel free to enter your question into the chat window during the session. I'm going through those questions at the end of the session. And also at the end of the presentation and my demo, you will have a chance to ask your questions, so you can raise your hand and then we can have a discussion. But if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to enter it into the chat window. I cannot promise I'm responding everything instantly because I'm going to focus on the content, but at least we will have a log of the questions there. One thing I would like to ask you is to mute your microphone if it's possible, so that we don't have any background noise during the presentation. Of course, at the end, when you have, or if you have a question, you can unmute yourself. Thank you. My name is Agnes Molnar. I live in Budapest, Hungary. And I've been working with SharePoint for over 15 years now. First as a developer, then I transitioned to more architecting SharePoint applications, and then I started to do consulting over 10 years ago. I founded Search Explained almost 8 years ago now. And we have been working with clients around the globe, basically, to help them with their search challenges. I've been a Microsoft MVP for 14 years now, and also I am a Microsoft regional director. What we do at Search Explained is basically everything that is related to Microsoft Search technologies. We do consulting and also coaching and mentoring. Training and also implementation. So we do a kind of whole stack of services around search in SharePoint and Office 365. So today I'm focusing on one topic, which is PnP Modern Search applications in SharePoint Online. One thing to clarify, this session is not going to be about Microsoft Search itself. I've got a lot of questions and feedbacks in advance, so that's a good notice to me that next time I should talk about Microsoft Search and the configuration options and what's possible there. But today I'm going to focus on customizations and how you can create your PnP Modern Search application. So let me switch to my demo environment here, and let me show you the differences between Microsoft Search and the PnP Modern Search application, and then we are going to go through the steps how to deploy the PnP library and how to create your search applications by using the PnP library. So if you have Office 365, most probably you are familiar with Microsoft Search. You have this search box on top of all the applications, including SharePoint Online, OneDrive, Teams, but also the Office Windows applications like Word, PowerPoint, Excel. If you click in that search box, you instantly get suggestions or zero query results based on your profile and based on your previous activities. So Microsoft Search uses the Microsoft Graph, which means it knows and uses a lot of information about you, your previous activities, and even if you don't enter anything, it gives you suggestions. But if you start typing in your query, then it changes and refines those suggestions. In this case, if I start typing in the word policy, it shows me the policy library here. If I click on show more results, then this is the out-of-the-box Microsoft Search result page. And you can see that I have some basic filters here. For example, the last modification date, if I'm on the all tab, if I switch to files, I can filter by the file type and also the last modified time. There are a couple of things that are important to mention about Microsoft Search. Number one, at the moment, we still cannot customize how it looks and what it does, what it means. It means that, for example, you can see this test policy 1 as the first result here. I cannot change what metadata is being displayed here. I cannot change how this result looks like or how this result behaves in search. I cannot also change the filters here. And I have limited options to create search verticals here. So this is basically not really customizable. I can have some impact on the ranking, mostly based on the metadata that we have on the content. But basically, this is still not what we had in classic search, when we could have a huge impact on the results. We could create result sources, search verticals, filters, and many other customizations. So basically, this is what we have out of the box. This is definitely much better than nothing, but still it's just a generic search, which is available across all the applications in Microsoft 365. On the other hand, if we switch to the PnP search results page, and if I do the same search here for policy, you can see that I have received search results in this cards format. We are going to talk about the format of the results here, but also I have custom filters here, so I can filter for HR policies only, and then the results will be refined to those 4 results which I am interested in. It is customizable, and I'm going to show you how we can do that. The basic thing to know before I jump back to my presentation is that all of those components here are search web parts, and those are the modern search web parts, and those are very similar to what we had in classic SharePoint. So let me show you how it works. I'm switching back to the presentation, but I'm going to switch back to this demo, and I am going to create a new page from scratch to show you how these components work together and how you can connect them together. So when you create your first search application. So yes, these are the screenshots of Microsoft Search and PnP Modern Search. I have created screenshots about everything that I'm going to show you today for 2 reasons. Number one, when you do live demo, you never know what happens, and I wanted to make sure that I can show you all the steps today. Number two, after this webinar, I'm going to share this presentation with you so you can have a reference and you can have a series of the steps that you can follow on your own later. So those are the two main reasons why you can see all those screenshots here. Okay, let's talk about the PnP Modern Search web parts. Basically, I already told you that we have those two options in SharePoint Online. We have the Microsoft 365. We have the Microsoft Search, which is out of the box. And we have the PnP Modern Search. We also still have the classic search available in SharePoint Online, but I'm not going to talk about classic search today because it is legacy. Microsoft is not going to improve it. Microsoft is not going to enhance it. Moreover, Microsoft already started to retire some of the features behind classic search. So that's a clear message that if you use classic search, that's okay. You can keep using it. But if you are new to search and if you are creating or developing a new search application in Microsoft Search, Classic is definitely not the way to do that. So this is the reason I'm not talking about Classic anymore. What I'm going to compare now is a Microsoft Search or the Modern Search and the PnP Modern Search here. So Microsoft Search is across Microsoft 365. As I mentioned, it can be found in all the applications. It can be found in OneDrive and Teams and SharePoint Online and basically everywhere in Microsoft 365. On the other hand, PnP Search can be added to SharePoint pages, and also it can display results from SharePoint and OneDrive. And when I say SharePoint, that also means SharePoint sites behind Teams in Microsoft Teams. On the other hand, Microsoft Search is out of the box, so you don't have to deploy or add anything to SharePoint Online. At the same time, the PnP Modern Search library is something that you have to deploy to your tenant. And I'm going to show you how you can do that, but it is something that you have to do so to have those additional web parts. Microsoft Search cannot be customized. As I told you, no custom filters, no custom result templates. Today, the custom verticals are very limited. And in PnP Modern Search, we have all the features and all the possibilities to customize the user interface. Both of them have modern user interfaces, so they fit into the SharePoint Modern UIs and not the legacy Classic. Microsoft updates Microsoft Search regularly, which means you might find new features or you might find changes in how Microsoft Search out of the box works. On the other hand, the PnP team also updates their solution regularly, but you have to deploy those updates to your tenant manually. So this is not an automatic update here. And the last one is, in case of Microsoft Search, you have no control about the updates. It happens automatically. This might be a pro or con. You might like it or you might don't like it. But this is how it works, and the PnP Modern Search works the opposite way. you are responsible for those updates on your tenant. Okay, let's see how to deploy those PnP Search modern web parts. As I said, I'm going to share these slides with you after this webinar. So I have added a lot of references, a lot of URLs that you can use. To speed up the deployment and development, or deployment of PnP pages here. Okay, so the first step is you have to deploy the PnP Modern Search Library to your SharePoint app catalog. You have to go to the app catalog on the SharePoint Administration Center, and then you have to go to Apps for SharePoint. And once you are in Apps for SharePoint, you can add, you can upload a new application. And here in the previous slide, you will find where you can download the package, the PnP Modern Search package. So you download this package, you go to the app catalog, you upload this package to the app catalog here, and then if you want those web parts to be available across on all of your sites across your tenant, you can make the solution available to all sites in the organization with this checkbox here, and then click on deploy. And once you are ready, you will have the PnP Modern Search Library in the app catalog. So if you go back to Apps for SharePoint, you will see this here. There are a couple of notes because I get a lot of questions about it. PnP Modern Search currently has two versions, version 3 and version 4. Those two can coexist. So if you earlier, if you have deployed the PnP Modern Search v3, then you can also deploy PnP Modern Search v4, and they do not conflict together. The reason you might have to do this is because there is no upgrade from 3.x to version 4.x in the PnP Modern Search. So if you had deployed the PnP Modern Search version 3 earlier, you cannot upgrade it to version 4 because the architecture of those two versions are totally different. So my recommendation is, if you are new to PnP Search, go for version 4. And all the URLs and links that I'm sharing today with you is for the version 4, so the new version. Do not deploy version 3 if you start from scratch. So as I said, version 3 cannot be upgraded to version 4, therefore deploy version 4 if it's your first time. If you already have version 3, there is no upgrade, but what you can do instead is you keep version 3, you also deploy version 4, and you have to replace the web parts one by one on every page where you have where you use those PnP Modern Search web parts. I know it's not easy. I know it's a challenge. Hopefully it does not happen again, but the PnP team really had to change the architecture of the solution, and this is the reason of this inconvenience here. And one side note to version 4, if you have installed version 4.0 when it was a new solution back in January, it had two separate packages. You had to deploy both of those packages. Today, if you download, today they are 4.3, if I'm correct, but any versions above 4.1 has only one package again. So again, this might be a little bit of challenge and inconvenience, but if you do it from scratch, then go for the latest version, which is 4.3, if I'm correct. After you deploy the PnP package, you might have to add permissions in the API access. So you have to go to this page on the SharePoint Admin Center called API Access, and you will see those pending requests from Microsoft Graph, and you have to allow all of these in order to have the PnP web parts working. Okay, so once it's done, you can use those web parts on your pages. Okay, again, a couple of resources for you for your reference later. But the steps are, and as I said, I'm going to do this on a real page in a few minutes, but first I would like to go through on those steps. So first, you obviously create a modern page on the site where you want to use search. And if you want to add those PnP search web parts, you search for PnP in the web parts gallery, and you will see those PnP search web parts. There are 4 web parts: PnP search box, search filters, search results, and search verticals. Let's see which one is what, but if you have any experience with classic search, those web part names are pretty obvious. So on this search page, this is the search box. These are the search results here. On the left side, you can see the search filters, and number 4 here is the search verticals. This terminology is pretty much the same as we had in Classic. The only difference is that in Classic we used the name search refiners. Here, these are search filters. Okay, so the first step you have to do is obviously you have to add the search box and search results to your page. You add both of those web parts, search box and the search results, and what you have to do is in the search results web part, you have to configure where it gets the query from. And you have to say, okay, this search results web part receives the query from the PnP search box on the page. And then you will see that if you search for something, then it receives the query from the search box. I can see there are a couple of questions. Once I am done with this part of the session, I'm going to check those questions and answer those. Okay, in the query properties, you can also use a query template to refine the query. So for example, you can use additional KQL expressions. In this case, I'm not only querying for policies, but also adding additional criteria, like it should be a document, not an ASPX page, and also I'm filtering for one site only. You can use KQL expressions here. So you add the search box, you add the search results web part, and you connect the search results web part to the search box, and also you can add additional expressions to the KQL query, which are going to be applied for every query. The next step is to add the filters web part, and to do that, you have to select the PnP search filters web part, and then you have to connect them together, and those connections are two-way connections. You have to open the properties of the PnP search filters web part and select the search results web part or web parts, which the filters web part will receive the data from. And then you open the properties of the search results and you select which filters web part this search results receives the filters from. So this is a two-way connection, and once you establish this two-way connection, then the search filters web part will work together with the search results web part. Before we move forward, I'm going to show it to you on a live version, but a couple of questions in chat. One question from Peter: are search centers still useful in modern SharePoint Online? Depending, yes, they are, because in many cases you have specific search needs. And also the out-of-the-box Microsoft Search does not deliver the results in a format or in the context how your users need. So actually, we have a couple of projects where we improve the relevance of the results in Microsoft Search, but basically almost all of our clients are deploying some custom search centers, either PnP based or custom developed web parts. Okay. Yes, I'm using version 4 in this demonstration. If you have to replace page by page and your tenant has, let's say, 1,000 pages, you have to manually go. No, basically you can script it, but still you have to enumerate those pages, and you have to do it. You can do it by script. And yes, you have to update those pages where you use actually those web parts. There is a question from Julie. Yes, it can be deployed to a single site collection. You do not have to deploy it to globally through your tenant. Yes, Julie is responding. Julie's question. Julie Turner, thanks you for that. But yes, you have to have a site collection level app catalog for that. Okay, dev tenant for testing. That's always useful. Although search is not modifying the content itself, I always recommend to use a dev tenant for testing, or separate the test and development as much as possible from production. Okay. Yes. Okay. So let me go back to my site here, and let me create a new page. It should be a blank one. Webinar search demo. We do not need my name. It should be as simple as possible. We don't need comments either. Okay, so now we have a new page. Okay, let's add a new web part here. And if I'm searching for PnP, you can see those 4 web parts here. So I'm going to add the PnP search box first. I immediately have the search box, and the PnP search results is here. I'm going to add them here. Okay, so this is what I have when I add those 2 web parts. If I go to configure the search results web part, I can select if I want to use the Microsoft Search, the graph results, or the SharePoint index. I'm going to choose this one. And you can see there are 4 pages of options. I'm not going to show all of them, but a couple of things. This is the query template. So this is where I can say if I am only interested in documents and I would like to exclude file extension. I would like to exclude the ASPX pages, so which means I would like to focus on the real documents only. And then, more importantly, I would like to connect this search results web part to the search box web part. So I have to turn to page 3 here and turn on use input query text. This is not going to be a static value. A static value can be useful if you create search-driven pages, but in this case, I'm going to use a dynamic value. The source would be the PnP search box web part and the search query. If you do not select this checkbox, then there is no default query. If you do, there you can define, for example, having asterisks as the default search is a very common pattern. Okay, let me publish the page. And you can see that I have Word documents here. If I do search for policy, for example, I have 22 policies. Some of them are coming from SharePoint sites. Some of them are from my OneDrive. Okay, so this is the search box plus the search results web part. Let me add the search filter now. As I told you I would. And again, I have to connect the search filters web part to the search results web part. And then I also have to connect the search results web part to the search filters web part. So let me show you how it looks like. I'm going to click on configure and going to use the data from these web parts, and I only have one search results web part on the page, so I'm going to select this one. And this is where I can add the filters. If I, for example, you can see the refinable properties here. So let me filter by site title for now. And this is the display. This is going to be the display name of this refiner. I'm selecting the checkbox as a template. This is how the refiners will be displayed, how they will behave. And I have a couple of options here. I can choose if it should be expanded or collapsed by default. I'm selecting expand. I would like to see the item counts. And for now, I don't want to use it as multi-value refiner. I'm not going to add more because I would like to show you a couple of other things here, but this is how it works. I'm going to leave it for the default vertical refiners, and let me save the page again. Okay, if I search, oh, why I cannot see the, okay, so sometimes site title is there. That's weird. It should display the site title. Okay, so this is a typical demo. Not this one. Okay, let me try again and search for something. Okay, it does not want to work. Oh, I know. You know why? Because I did not connect them together. So I'm sorry. So this is what happens. I told you that you should connect those two web parts to each other, but I did not do that. So I have connected the search filters web part to the search results web part, but I did not connect the search results web part to the search filters web part. So let me do that. I switched to the properties of the search results web part. And if I switch to page 3 again, you can see there is a connect to a filters web part. I'm going to turn it on, select the filters web part, and it should work now. Okay, let me save the page again. And now what we have is that we have 74 results for the asterisks, which means in this context, I have permission to see those 74 results from those 3 sites. And if I am only interested in, I don't know, HR documents, then I can filter for HR here, or I can search for something. And you can see that I have 3 templates under the HR site, which I have permissions to. All right, let me go back to see if we have any new questions about filters. Yes, there is a discussion about test and development tenants. You can have a free development tenant. Peter has a question about V3. If you expose properties in the search schema, they would be available as a refiner based on search results. Yes, you have to. In V4, you had a couple of default refiners. In V3, sorry, in V4, you have to add those properties. Although those filters, you are right, are based on the results that we have here. And also there is one more thing. So for example, let me go back to the settings for the filter here. So I'm going to open up the available refinable filters, and you can see that the one I used is the site title, but for example, we do not have the content type here. If I wanted to have a filter for content type, I have to go to the search results web part. And in the search results web part, and this is an important step, there is a part for selected properties. You open up this one and you have a list of all the properties that can be used. And if you scroll down, you can see that here is the SP content type. Now I'm selecting the SP content type here. And then going back to the filters web part, I'm going to edit this web part again. If I open this scroll down, I should have SP content type somewhere here. SP content type is here. So now I can filter by type of content or content type, whatever you like. Again, I'm choosing the template. This is not a date. I can choose checkbox or combo box. Let's use checkbox now. Let's expand and show the counts again and save. All right. Okay, it's there. Let's see what we have now. And you can see I have the content type filter here. Again, if you want to use a custom or not custom, a property that is not available as a search filter in the list, then you have to edit the properties of the search results, and then you can go back and select that refinable property here. The same is true with all the refinable properties that you map to your custom properties, refinable string, refinable integer, refinable date properties. If you map those to your custom properties, and if you want to use them as filters, first you have to select them in the search results web part, and then you will be able to use them on the search filters. All right. For the filters, there is a question from Rosa. For the filters in the left side, can you use faceted columns? Okay, Rosa, I think we have to go back here because I'm not really sure what you mean by faceted columns. How does custom columns work as filters from Ignacio? And also the next question from Jennifer is similar. You will need to create refinable string managed properties from custom columns. Okay, so one, Jennifer, yes and no. Yes, you need refinable properties that if you want to use custom your custom properties for filters, but in SharePoint Online, you cannot create custom refinable properties. So for example, if you have a property for customer name and you want to use it as filter, then you cannot create a refinable property called customer name. What you can do is there are a couple of refinable out-of-the-box refinable properties, refinable string 01, refinable string 02, etc., etc. The same with integers, the same with numbers, the same with dates. So different types of refinable properties. And you can map your custom properties to those refinable properties, and then you can reuse them or you can use them in filters. It is very important then, since you have only a limited number of refinable properties, for example, 200 refinable strings, that you need a very, very good governance for search, because if you start mapping those properties in a really large enterprise organization, that's going to be a mess, and nobody can overview what's mapped to what. So that's super important, that before you start doing that, you need to think it through. All right. No more questions for now, so let me switch back to the presentation. Okay, so policies, not policies, sorry, search box, you connect it, you add the search box, you add the search results web part, you connect the search results web part to the search box. And then when you add the search filters web part, you connect the search filters web part to the search results web part, and also the search results web part to the search filters. As you could see, if you do not do that, the search filters web part will not work. Even I forget it sometimes, but you really have to do that. And then you can add the refinable properties to the search filters web part. If you want to add custom properties or properties that are not selectable as filters by default, then you have to go back to the properties of the search results. You have to select those properties, and then you will be able to select those properties on the search filters web part. All right. Customize filters. As I said, you can select those filters here in the drop-down. Those are the refinable properties, and those are the properties that are retrieved by the search results web part. You can define the display name of the property, so it can be different to the filter name. You can define how many values you want to display for each of those filters. If you leave it empty, then it will display as many as possible. And then you can select the templates. I only use the checkbox, but it can be a radio button, or for dates, it can be, the slider that you use, that you might know from Classic, and also the date range filter. And then we have a couple of settings for those. If you want to expand or collapse by default. It's really interesting because in most cases, I like collapsing those filters, especially if you add more than 2 or 3 to the same page, because it's much easier for the users to review what they are filtering by. So let me show it to you. So for example, this one is okay. We only have a couple of values here, and we only have 2 filters here. But if we would have more filters with more value, you can imagine the user has to scroll down to get all those values. So instead, I like to collapse all those filters by default, and then the user searches for something, get the results, and then he or she can choose what they want to filter by. One more thing to mention, you can connect this search box, to a PnP Modern Search Page. It's not connected here, so I cannot, it might be to a different page. So let me do this. So no, it's not. Okay, so instead of, okay, let me clarify. So you can see that on this side, if I do a search for policy, it goes to the out of the box search, Microsoft Search. It says there is no policy results on this site, but if I switch to organization, then you can see that those results are there. However, I can connect this search box to this search page of this custom search page. We don't have time to do that. I'm going to share the steps with you as a follow-up for this webinar. It's relatively easy, but if if your users want to have a custom search instead of the Microsoft search, you can do that on a site level setting or site collection level setting. So you can, as you can see, you can keep both. You can use PnP search, you can use Microsoft search, or you can replace the out-of-the-box Microsoft search with a custom search page, but only in SharePoint Online. So not in Teams, not in Office.com, for example. So it's always a good trade-off which one to use, use. Okay, Ignacio has a question. Do you have a search governance document template that can be shared? I do have search governance templates which I use with my clients. I don't like to share it, to be honest. It's, well, there are two things. It's always a custom document, so there is no one size fits all. Number two, those assets are not something that I like sharing to the public. I'm sorry. Jennifer, will that work with a hub search as well? I suppose you are asking about redirecting the Microsoft search box to a PnP search. The answer to that is yes, you can redirect it on a hub site as well. Okay. If there is any questions, okay, Ignacio is negotiating on the governance plan. How table of contents. Okay, I'm going to take it as a note and going to consider to share something. Okay. Lynn missed how you identify the specific content type. Is your content type name generic? For purposes of demo, but it could be any value, for example, vendor. So let me go back to that. What I did here, I selected the SP content type property from this list. If you use a vendor name, for example, or customer name, or whatever is important in your business, then yes, those can be assigned to refinable string or refinable, or if it's not a string, it could be a refinable date or refinable integer or whatever. And then you will be able to select those properties here. So the short answer to your question, Lynn, is that yes, a vendor, client, service, product, whatever can be also used here. Peter is asking, are any downsides by connecting the Microsoft search field to a PnP search page? I'm not sure if I would use the word downside. I would say it's a consideration. So for example, okay, let me. So if you connect the search box to a PnP search page, then if you are on a SharePoint site, it goes there. But if you go to, I don't know, a document library, I don't know, I'm going to this templates library here. I don't have too many things here, but I do have a communication plan and a crisis communication plan. So you can see the text here is search this library. And if I search for communication, I get the results from this library only. And this does not change even if you connect the top search box to a PnP page. So if you are not in a library, you are anywhere on the site, you search for communication, you are redirected to the PnP page. If you are in a library, you search in context, therefore in that library. So this needs a little bit of user education. This is something definitely to consider, but it's always a huge trade-off. Okay, SP content type in the schema, if you use content type publishing, it is, yes. Casper, Microsoft Search has a huge scope, including emails and other stuff, and no available in PnP, I guess. Yes, that's also, as I said in the beginning, Microsoft Search is and can be used on Office.com, in Teams, in OneDrive, in, I don't know, Word, PowerPoint. The PnP search is usually just an application. So for a specific case, it cannot be generic. Well, technically speaking, it could be generic, but we cannot replace, for example, search in Teams with a PnP search solution. How things worked in SharePoint 2010. Well, I did not think about this comparison, but it's quite true, Jennifer. By default in SharePoint, it's normally scoped to the site collection. It's normally scoped to the site, yes. So that's the default. You can change it. Even if you do not create a PnP search page, you can change the scope to global or the whole tenant if you like, even if you do search on a specific site, Peter. Casper, and the signals used in Microsoft Search to get most relevant is also lost. Yeah, that might be a benefit or might be a downside depending on the use case. Search zero query search won't work any longer. Yeah. Felix might miss a setting somewhere. I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not sure what you miss, Felix. We can get back to that. Rose, are you still with us? I'm not sure. We can get back to your question if you like. And I can stay longer to respond all your questions. I really appreciate all those questions and feedbacks and messages in the chat. It looks like it's something that is super interesting to you. So again, I'm going to share these slides with you and also the recording of this webinar with all those links and resources in this session. I'm also going to do 5 days workshop late October about Microsoft Search. So if you are interested, then you can check it out. And if you use the code webinar, we can give you 20% off of that workshop. As a follow-up, I'm going to share the slides and the recording with you guys. But before you leave, I would like to say thank you for joining and thank you for the discussion and questions and messages and all these activities in chat. Thomas says, I make it very easy. Well, you know, one of the attendees of a workshop of mine years ago said, search is complex and beautiful. I still believe it's true. It seems easy, or might seem easy, but it is beautiful, I believe. All right. I appreciate your thank you and feedback messages. Really, if there is any questions that I miss, I promise I'm going to respond all of those. Have a good afternoon or evening or day, depending on where you are. And see you next time. Thank you, everybody, and take care.
Very good, Agnes. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much.